Rocco, our favorite rock. Rocco, 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 our favorite rock.
I don't know why that's so funny every time. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let me check something. Okay. I think we're on. Let me go to the right screen. I know I should do actually another live things I'm looking at investing wise. There actually are some interesting ideas I have kind of I'm working on. Maybe next day or two. So anyways, so it's just easier to do live streams and videos. If I'm normally this is more of a video content, but you just StreamYard it and it's up. If I have to do a video, then I have to download it, produce the video, and you have to mess with it and then upload it. It's like Jesus. So let's watch. So anyways, Paul brought back this, which this was like an old thing. They used to do it everything money. They used to really push the 8 pillars because that literally was the software. It was like the 8 pillar software. That was Paul's thing. Like this is his baby, this 8 pillar shit. And he's convinced this is how you invest. Okay. So he just came out with the video I think this morning or yesterday, 15 hours ago. So let's watch a little bit of it. And then there's some other, we can talk about it.
And
I'm fast
if
forward.
it's less than 22.5, it's a check.
Wait, hold
and
on.
what my next steps are for analyzing the business. And I call that my 8 pillar process. Here are the 8 pillars and what they each mean. I'm going to pull up an example.
So if you're new to Paul's 8 pillars, so he used to really push this years ago. So his idea was if a company had these 8 pillars, they were better opportunities in the market, right? So his software has an 8 pillar. You could I had the software for a month. You push this 8 pillar button and it tells you every company that is 8 pillar, which is his 8 criteria that gives him a green check mark. Okay. This is Paul's thing. I want people to understand. This is nothing to do with investing broadly. This is Paul's thing he created out of his head.
Example with my 22.5, it's a check. If it's greater than, it's an X. 5-year return on invested capital. Basically, the invested capital is how much cash flow the business is making
a lot of his
based on the money invested in the business in terms of equity and debt. Take the last 5 years of the free cash.
You can see 5-year PE ratio. There's no industrial component to this PE ratio metric, right? It's just blindly. There's like a line in the sand that Paul drew and said a PE ratio below this is bad, or below this is good, above this is bad, right? And I don't know, like, unless you've been living under a rock, the PE ratios of different industries it matters, right? Like I was joking with a certain YouTuber. He was comparing McDonald's to Google, and he said Google was a better investment than McDonald's because it was trading at a lower multiple. Like, okay, if you're going to compare PE ratios, they have to be specific to the sector or even the industry you're talking about. Let's get real. Like, you can't just go across the entire freaking investing landscape and say companies that have lower PEs are a better investment. First of all, that's nonsense. Okay. And you go ahead and find me proof that that's true, because I doubt you will. That has nothing to do with it. 5-year return on invested capital. Okay. Again, here, another cherry-picked piece of information. And I will say it's the same as the PE. Return on invested capital matters. I think it matters. I use it in my investment process. It does not have a broad across the spectrum percentage that you can derive. It depends on the damn business, right? In an industrial, so just speaking broadly, industrials that produce a 17% ROIC typically, are good. A 17% ROIC on an industrial usually is pretty pretty amazing. Okay. If you were to look at a different business, let's say a software business, all right, return on invested capital 70% is garbage for a software company. You can't derive anything from these metrics by themselves. Useless. Okay. Shares outstanding. I think, okay, obviously they're doing some sort of saying reducing shares is better. I would again counter a lot of the best growth companies in the United States. What happens? They're issuing shares as they grow. They're growing rapidly. They're using shares as a compensation tool for their employees, which saves them cash. But then it also incentivizes the employees to do better. And then their shares grow at the same time as the business. Okay. So to say an investment is better investment because the shares are going down, again, where is the data? Where's the proof? Has anybody done a paper on this to say that that's a fact or that's something you should care about as an investor? I would say no. I would tell you, and what I would tell you, all of these are dependent on your situation of what you're looking at. Shares outstanding going down can be good, can be. Depends on what industry and sector and what type of business. What's the stage of the business you're looking at? Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. ROIC, same thing. What kind of industry is it in? Okay, that'll determine that. And it can fluctuate. All right. Some companies, it's not consistent. Cash flow growth, that can vary pretty wildly with certain companies. Okay. So these are all very dependent pieces of data that you can't just broadly apply as a search tool or a screening tool when you look at investments. Like this is all nonsense to do this stuff. It's one of those things in investing. It sounds smart. When you look at this on paper and he tells you what it does, it sounds smart, but there's no data to back up at all anything to tell you these 8 pillars do anything to provide you alpha over the market. And finding companies that can comply to these 8 random pieces of data that Paul has derived, there's no proof those will outperform the market at all. Okay. So he just made up some of these. 5-year price to free cash flow. Okay. Again, it's dependent on what you're looking at, maybe. So we'll go. I'm going to turn. There's other parts that we're going to get to of why I think the 8 pillars is complete nonsense. And if you want to try and create some sort of I'll tell you, you don't think Wall Street has analyzed every type of data that exists in investing to find some magic piece of data that provides you outperformance of the market. Every hedge fund in the world would love to find some magic ratio or percentage or whatever you could figure out, and you could apply it and find out that if a company has X, it will outperform the market. You don't think they've tried? Okay. It doesn't work. It has never worked. It's still about picking the right companies based on lots of things. Like it's an art, not a science. Okay. There's companies that have come close using data, right? I think Renaissance has done a good job, but okay, we'll play this. So investing sucks. I'll link this. Watch this video. This is an older video, so I know people aren't going to know it exists because it's 2 years old. So I wanted to bring it back to light. He back tested because we used to know if you could go in and hit the 8 pillars tab and it would tell you what the 8 pillars are. So he got the 8 pillar stocks and he back tested them 2 years ago. And then this was the video he did. So we'll just skim through it, but you should watch the whole thing if you want.
To see what types of companies the 8 pillars tend to lead you towards, because Everything Money is one of the bigger channels out there, and a lot of people who get into investing, if they go to YouTube to learn about investing, are probably going to be guided towards their channel because they they make tons of content, tons of videos, and they use the 8 pillars in pretty much every investing video that they do. So I wanted to do a bit of an experiment here and do a few things really. One is see what types of companies. And it's a public script as well. So I'm going to get a message here, which says done generating the list. And then I have to go to Insight Tables to access it. So I go to Insight Tables, it'll pop up right here. So these are our 8 pillar stocks. So you can see there's quite a few. And then I got all the market cap as well as all the metrics lined up here. And then I can do the same thing for the back test that I did, which is also here.
Then he back
this one here. So I can just hit run. and it's going to generate a similar list. Now, one thing you're going to notice is there's going to be fewer stocks in the 5-year back test than what is going to show up in the current 8 pillar stocks. And there's a few reasons why I think this is. So again, I'll just go to insight tables, and you can see here here's the back test one, and here's the companies. So there's less companies in here. This is the back test, and then this is what it is currently. So there's a lot more companies in here. Now, there's a few reasons why I think there's less. One could just be the fact that companies today are just more cheap than they were 5 years ago. That's one possible reason. I don't have really any evidence to back that up, but I mean, we have seen a lot of stocks go down a lot in value recently. But let's let the results determine that. So it's not quite a perfect back test, but I think for the purpose of just exploring, there's a button here, export to Excel. So just
all right, let me go to
part 2 focuses on dividend. On them, averages 3.6%, and 57 out of the 68 companies, which is 84% of the total, are paying dividends, at least some level of dividends, whether that's 1%, 5%. So not really, a great insight there, but we can tell it probably is slightly higher for the 8 pillar stocks. But what was the interesting insight about the dividend side of things was the current dividend yield on the S&P 500 is about 1.7, really. But the dividend yield, as we saw on 8 pillar stocks, is much, much higher, 3 point.
So it's an important note I wanted to play. So Paul's software leads you to a specific type of company, right? Any sort of specific methodology you apply to investing, it's going to lead you towards certain types of companies. So if you say, I only want companies with these type of financial metrics, ROIC and PE and all that, it's going to lead you to certain types of companies in certain sectors and industries. So Paul's software, the 8 pillars, is leading you to a much higher dividend yield. So think about the maturity curve of companies. What does it mean if you have a higher yield, right? What are you getting exposure to? And you'll see in a second. So more dividend payers at a higher yield fall under this 8 pillars. Okay.
0.6% currently. And then in the 5-year back test, it was 4.
Okay, we'll go
hiring sales per here. When we get kind of into the 19, you can see, about 2%, and then it went down. Currently, again, it's about 1.6, a lot more of their. So part 3 is the industry. So how does the 8 pillar stocks, the composition of the sectors compare to the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ here? So here's the S&P 500. If I scroll over, here's the NASDAQ. So IT, information technology, or just technology more broadly, makes up the majority of these indices here. We can see 26.7% here of the S&P 500, and then the NASDAQ, pretty big chunk, 48%. And technology, so this is the current script that I ran for the 8 pillar stocks. There was only 9 stocks, 9 out of the 16.
So okay, this is the part that's fucking hilarious. So you use the 8 pillars that Paul says he screens all investments for, right? And then you look, okay, when he did this 2 years ago, information technology in the S&P was 26%, and I think it said 48% NASDAQ. His 8 pillars only lead you to 9% sector or stocks that only 9% of them are in technology. All right. So if you think about it, if you believe in efficient markets, right? And then the market puts, people invest in the companies that are doing well, and, you have no advantage over the market. Like, he is severely underweighting the sectors that actually are being invested in with his 8 pillar stock. So again, like 26% of the S&P 500 in this back test were information technology companies, and then his 8 pillars was only 9%. So what does the 8 pillars lead you to? Look at it. Financial services. I mean, you could have guessed this when you saw the dividend yield of the back testing of companies that applied this 8 pillars methodology. You buy a bunch of freaking banks. Okay. So his software leads you to a bunch of shit none of you would ever buy, I'm assuming. Most of you are probably not bank investors. That's what the software leads you to. Okay. Banks and industrials and consumer cyclical. I'm pretty sure most of your portfolios don't look like this, but you're using a software program that leads you to stocks you don't want to invest in. Okay. Great. Let's go to the back test results, because that's what I want to see.
Technology stock out of the 21. And the largest sector, again, in the backtest, was financial services. And the second largest was consumer cyclical, which consumer cyclical in here, 15%, which we compare to,
even worse.
I'd imagine that'd be consumer discretionary here, which 21 8-pillar stocks 5 years ago at market cap weight.
Okay. The investment results. If you invested 1 million into 21 8-pillar stocks 5 years ago at market cap weights, what would your return be?
Wait, so here are the actual companies that appeared there. These are all the 21.
Video, I'll link
there's a few that are stock price as the amount. You can see it's been going up and up and up steadily throughout the past 10 years, really. So a lot of their capital allocation is going towards dividends. And if we look at the dividend yield, so even though $1,043,000, which that return is it's less than 1% a year.
Do you hear it? The returns of the 8-pillar portfolio, not even 1% per year. Oh, like, do you see this? Applying the 8 pillars to a portfolio, actually. Now, I know what the comments are going to be. You guys are I'm going to get the comments of Paul didn't say to invest in 8-pillar stocks. Paul said it was a screening tool. Okay, I get that. My response, what are you screening? Because there's no proof that 8-pillar stocks will lead you to investments that'll outperform the market. Like, so I'm telling you, like, the list is flawed. Okay. If you're going to say, well, he doesn't tell you robotically buy 8 pillars. I'm like, yeah, but there's no advantage to an 8-pillar stock over any other stock you're going to buy in the market. What are you doing? Okay. Look at 1.9%, right? What is the S&P returning? 11, 12%. Unbelievable. The most year returns in an 8-pillar portfolio is the dividend, ironically, which Paul used to shit on all the time. And now all of a sudden he loves dividends. Maybe this is why he loves dividends, because his 8-pillar stock leads you to dividend investing.
But again, that's just looking at the change in stock price and what aspect of their business is currently being overlooked or is misunderstood.
Yeah. So again, you can watch the whole thing. The point is, like, these 8 pillars lead you nowhere. They lead you to banks. Okay. They lead you to bank stocks and industrials, and probably not the industrials that I would even tell you to look at. Probably the boring old crappy ones that you probably should avoid. The mature industrials that nobody shouldn't be investing in. So there's that. Okay, we'll go back. That's pretty much it. But okay, I just want, like, somebody that this was a Reddit post I saved. So it's not necessarily 8 pillars, but he claims that he uses. Paul used to say he used the 8 pillars for his own investing. Okay, so this guy took 8 months ago. He took a portfolio of all the stocks that Everything Money said they were buying in videos. And I can tell you a lot of these were 8-pillar stocks from when I was there. Where was the one? Yeah, some of these are very familiar 8-pillar stocks. Okay. Let's go down. Where is it? Oh, is it at the top? Oh, here it is. So this guy applied, everything that Paul said he was buying in his videos, he created a portfolio and then compared it to the market, right? Paul's portfolio during this time frame only negative 8% return. Cool. So what are you buying? You're buying low PE companies with Paul's 8 pillars, because he just applies this ubiquitous PE rate. It has to be under a certain PE ratio, right? Just some random number. I think it was 20. I think it used to be 20, but so, like, under 20 PE, bad. Above 20, or if it's below 20, buy it. If it's above 20, don't buy it. Like, what the hell does that do for you? So 8 pillars doesn't do shit for you. So if it doesn't lead you to better returns in the market, it's not a screening tool that you want to use. It's a waste of your time. Okay. So we'll keep this one short. So go watch Investing Sucks video. Subscribe to Investing Sucks. He's a great YouTuber to follow. Highly recommended. He's on my list of YouTubers to follow on my homepage. So thank you for watching. And as always, stay away from everything money. All right. And I look forward to seeing you in the comments. All right. Bye.